On October 14, 1962, the USSR was discovered to be housing missiles in Cuba when a U-2 spy plane took aerial photographs. For 13 days, the United States, Cuba, and the Soviets were on the brink of nuclear war. Within this time, many military options were proposed, some more covert than others. Operation Northwoods was one of them.
The Cuban Missile Crisis is often misunderstood in the eyes of the public. The issue was not about Castro or even Cuba itself. It was a matter of the Soviet Union overstepping their bounds. Castro was simply a cooperator. He did not actually instigate any threatening weapons movements. While Kennedy was a bleeding heart liberal, any military threat can turn a country on a dime. Within the 13 days of the panic, war was on America's collective mind, which opened the door for a certain Lyman Lemnitzer to concoct a scheme so vile it would live in infamy and secrecy for all of history. Something you have to keep in mind when considering the missile crisis is our complete unfamiliarity with nuclear weapons. We had no way to test how to survive a nuclear blast. We knew that around half of the people in Hiroshima had survived, but we didn't know if they were ready, lucky, or both. Another issue with the matter of an atomic bomb is the warning. Nowadays, our radar can detect the warhead far before it even reaches its destination, but radar was much shoddier in the 60s. So when it would hypothetically happen, the government had no real advice for the citizens. Concerned Americans saw the government as if it were shrugging at them, and the useless tips that were provided were adding insult to nuclear injury.
He's duck and cover, duck and cover. He did what we all must learn to do. You and you and you and you, duck and cover.
When Russia began military relations with Cuba, America was willing to do just about anything to keep enemy nukes out of the neighborhood.
Operation Northwoods was a conspiracy headed by high-ranking officials in the United States government during the Kennedy presidency. It was created with the intention to spur public support for involvement during the Cuban Missile Crisis and in ousting communist leader Fidel Castro. These plans were headed by Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff Lyman Lemnitzer, but were stopped by JFK, who rejected them but kept them classified. Outlined in Operation Northwoods was a series of actions of terrorism directed at United States and Cuban citizens, and specifically the United States military base at Guantanamo Bay. Various options on provoking the public's encouragement were proposed, including engineering artificial attacks and riots, staging explosions of aircraft and ships belonging to the United States, and capturing and killing innocent people of both the United States and Cuba. All of this was in hopes of establishing some sort of legitimate pretense for an invasion of Cuba to further the Cold War goal of fighting communism.
Many people may have a hard time believing that something that happened over 50 years ago can still affect us today. But Operation Northwoods still has a large impact on the way that people and the U.S. government interact. One of these is the interesting correlation between number of conspiracy theories and distrust of the government.
Excuse me, sir. I need some help finding some documents.
What exactly are you looking for?
I was looking for anything on Operation Northwoods.
Hold on. I'm gonna have to ask you to leave now.
Why?
I think you know why.
Okay, fine. I'm leaving.
Alright, please leave. Wait, is that camera?
Go.
This relationship is one of the things that led to the belief that former President George Bush had planned the 9/11 attacks on the Twin Towers. While there is no evidence that the 9/11 attacks were planned, a lack of trust in the government caused people to believe these allegations. The main piece of evidence was the fact that the strategy of conducting terrorist attacks on the U.S. to give us a reason to invade had been discussed in the highest levels of government before. There was one proposition in the Operation Northwoods file that bears striking similarity to another historical event that was also subject to many conspiracy theories. Remember the Maine. The USS Maine was a battleship commissioned by the United States in 1895. It was sent to Cuba to protect U.S. interests. It suffered an explosion and sank on February 15, 1898. Its sinking was later used as a battle cry against the Spanish in Cuba. This bears resemblance to the Northwoods plan to arrange a Remember the Main event, which could be carried out in several forms, including, quote, "We could blow up a U.S. ship in Guantanamo Bay and blame Cuba." There was much debate over the reasons for the explosion and subsequent sinking, and because of its mention in the Northwoods files, there is still much speculation of the real reason it sank.
I think it's very clear that the government was responsible for the Maine incident. Now, if you see here, the proposed attack for Northwoods and the actual explosion of the Maine, anyone can tell that McKinley was perfectly willing to sacrifice 200 of his own troops just for a little territorial gain. So therefore, in 2001, when George Bush...
Because of these events, the public doubted the government more than it had in the days of Hoover. People knew that the government could be corrupted and perform scandalous actions under the veil of secrecy. Nobody knows how long the government has been hiding things from us, but we do know that they haven't stopped.